Welcome to the Las Vegas IT Management Podcast. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mike Mulhoney with your Virtual CTO. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited to get to know you a little bit more and learn about your Virtual CTO. What sparked your journey into the tech consulting world and what drew you to become a CTO and technology strategist?
Well, I started out many years ago actually as a paralegal, and I was the only person in the office that had any knowledge of technology. So they'd always come to me, "Hey, can you fix this? Can you fix that?" And then one day, I was working for a single attorney law firm, and he merged with a larger firm, and so their technology director asked me to help move our content, to their network, and then offered me a job. And I haven't looked back since. I've done every role. I've been a software developer. I've done network engineering, and I just rose through the ranks, and eventually became a chief technology officer. That was like early 2000s was when I first began as a CTO, and I really like um, I like helping people solve problems and strategizing their future for their business. And so, like I think around 5, 6 years ago, I decided, I don't really want to work full time anymore. I coach technology executives. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't I offer myself as a fractional CTO? They can use my services and my knowledge, but I don't have to work full time and I'm not dedicated to one company. So that's what I do now. That's what we mostly focus on at your virtual CTO is fractional CTO work and then NetSuite development. Those are the kind of the two niches that I've picked for this business.
Got it. And that seems very interesting. And you said early 2000s. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes with technology.
Yeah. Yeah, the very first web application that I ever wrote ran on, you guys aren't going to believe this, but on Netscape 1.0. I mean, we don't even use Netscape browsers anymore. They're dead and buried. But yeah, I've seen so much come and go. And really, I'm lucky enough that I got to watch the birth pretty much of what the internet is today. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but it is what it is. And we've it's grown tremendously. There was a time, where nobody had internet or they use the dial up, all that stuff. And now everybody has internet of some sort or they walk around with it in their phone, so life has changed a lot in the last, say, like 30 years.
Right. And I remember those days. I mean, I was a child, very young when that time was. But I remember when when you were on the internet and you would call in and the dial tone, you would hear the
Right.
dial tone. And reflecting on 16 years as a CEO and lead consultant, what have been the most pivotal moments or milestones in your career?
Well, one would probably be back in about a decade ago. I was brought in for a project. I was supposed to help a company rebuild their website. And what we ended up doing instead of just rebuilding their website is they were using NetSuite software. It's the first time was ever introduced to it other than using it as a time clock, and they had us use it as the database for the front end of the website. And so I learned everything there was to know about NetSuite. Well, here we go, fast forward 10 years later, and that's probably about 50% of my business now is NetSuite development. Probably the second biggest thing was about right before the pandemic. I started coaching CTOs on how to reduce the number of hours they work. I myself, when I was a CTO, I was working 105 hours a week, and it wasn't sustainable. You don't see your children, you don't see your wife, you don't have a life, you just work. And I did a few things. I put together a process whereby I was able to reduce my hours, and I packaged it into a coaching program, and I've been running it ever since. And those were the two most pivotal moments, mainly because number one, the NetSuite job got me involved with NetSuite, which is now a huge revenue driver for me. But the other, with the coaching part, I really love helping these overworked people, especially the ones who come and say, it's impossible. I have to work this many hours. I love their face when their hours get cut in half in like a month or two. They just don't realize what they're doing incorrectly that's causing them to work 80, 100 hours. They have a team, but they don't use it, that sort of thing. So yeah, those are probably two most pivotal moments in the last say a decade.
Got it. And then just in case, someone who's listening to us to our podcast, maybe they
Mhm.
don't know what a CTO is. Could you just kind of share with us what that is?
Sure. Well, it stands for Chief Technology Officer. And basically, you are in charge of all technology teams within a business. Usually it's a corporate position, and it's responsible for strategizing the future technology growth for the company. So, back when I first started being a CTO, it was huge because, as we talked about, there was dial-up internet. And then we switched to T1 lines. And so you had to kind of manage each location of your business. What's available, what kind of internet can I get, and then what kind of sacrifices are we making. So you have to put all this strategy together in a something that blends with the business's business plan. Where do they want to take the business? And you have to do things like, if the business wants to grow worldwide but they don't have the technical capability, we have to plan for there to be that technical capability. What I do is I meet with companies once or twice a month, depending on what they contract with. And I sit in on strategy meetings and I help them decide, okay, you're going to need to hire 2 more people if you want to do this, or this is the direction you should take your tech into. Or, they're trying to decide, should they use something like .NET for their software or some open source software, for their software. I help them navigate all of that. And so it's really a high level consulting role. With if you're actually working directly for a business, well, then you're basically the tech leader for the company. I mean, even companies that have like CIO, they have a different role. So, my role has always been the one to guide the company and the teams to where they need to be. So,
Awesome. You did talk about NetSuite. And so how did your expertise with NetSuite evolve? And what sets it apart as a tool for businesses' growth and efficiency?
well, that particular project that I started with was really strange because we were supposed to come in and create like a synchronization tool that would take their database, sync it to NetSuite, and vice versa. But they got a new director of technology who hated the idea. He was like, this is why we're rebuilding the website in the first place. That way didn't work. So he wanted to use NetSuite as a database. Well, I then, of course, had to learn everything about the back end of NetSuite. And as I moved forward with that, I got into writing code with NetSuite. I mean, it's really, if you're a JavaScript developer and you want to grow in your field, learn SuiteScript. It's basically just a wrapper around JavaScript, but it's a tool that companies use. It has a CRM built into it. It's an ERP system. Mostly distribution companies use it, e-commerce companies use it, and it streamlines everything. It has accounting software, so you don't need QuickBooks. As I said, it has a CRM, so you don't need something like HubSpot. It's all one-stop shop, great reporting, fully customizable, and it's a shared system amongst every customer. So you have to know the rules for development with it. Otherwise, NetSuite shuts you off. And so that's, just building my expertise over the last 10 years. I've done so many integrations. I've helped companies who take NetSuite right off the shelf and turn it into something that works with them. Worked with, like, in Vegas here, I've worked with the Golden Gate Casino, Circa, and the D. They're all owned by the same people. And they transitioned from one accounting software to another, but as you can imagine, they have people that worked for them for like 30 years, and all they were doing was griping about, this doesn't do this and it doesn't do that. Well, it can. And, we worked with them for about a year and got them up and running on NetSuite smoothly. So it's a fun software to use. It's a bit expensive. It's more for mid to larger size companies. But if you're in that range, you definitely want to look at NetSuite.
Got it. And so when you say a mid-size, bigger, corporation, is there a particular industry that it's good for? Like, construction or
Well, I think if you're a busy e-commerce company, maybe you're doing 500,000 a year or more in revenue, it'd be a good tool for you because it manages your inventory, it handles shipping, all the fulfillment. It'll send the customer their tracking number, and it's all on automation. I mean, it's just completely done automated. So you're not relying on a human being who could make a mistake and not send the tracking number, or maybe not pack and ship the box. And it just works really well for that size business. And then, I mean, manufacturing and distribution companies, it works really well with, because it has features that they need. Things like, people never think about this, but like Just think of a basic computer system. You've got the box that holds the CPU and the memory and everything in it, and then you have the monitor and you have the keyboard and the mouse. So they're all separate parts, and you can buy them all together or you can buy them individually. And so NetSuite gives them the way to either sell those things individually or package it together as what they call a bundle, and bundle the product and send it out. So it makes it really easy to manage your inventory. Know, like, manufacturers can calculate using NetSuite how many of this part and how many of that part do I need in order to make 150 of these widgets. So it's just a super cool tool.
Got it. And what does your role, what does a virtual CTO play? What role does a virtual CTO play, and how does it differ from traditional CTO roles?
Basically, companies can't always afford a CTO. I mean, a salary for a CTO, basic starting salary, is going to be close to 200,000 a year plus benefits. And really, they might have enough technical people on staff to keep their technical staff busy and focused and working correctly, but they don't have the knowledge for, how do I scale my tech? How do I grow bigger? What tools am I going to need? Well, long and short of it, the virtual CTO can come in. I might charge them, $2,000 for the month, and I can go to a weekly meeting, 4 weekly meetings, and give them strategy and answer questions. And I've even had clients come to me and say, okay, we have a problem. We have these developers, they work remotely, and we're not sure they're doing the work. And I give them strategies for figuring out whether they're doing the work or not without being too draconian and making accusations, because that's obviously the worst thing you can do, is go to some productive people who you think aren't productive and say, hey, how come you're not doing your job? And they're going to look at you and go, what are you talking about? We not only do our job, we do a job of 5 people. That's usually what happens. But it's basically a way, it's become a popular thing in the remote worker world for fractional positions. So, like, people have fractional controllers or a fractional accounting manager, and they're just basically enabling me to work with multiple clients, helping them with the same concepts, but without the client having to pay $200,000 a year plus for the position that they're trying to fill.
Got it. So pretty much you're independent. You're hired as a 1099. Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Got it. Understood. And then could you also share us some insights into how you've approached building a technology strategy that supports business growth?
Well, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. You look at their business plan, ask a lot of questions about where they're planning to grow, what the timeline is. Not everybody thinks about that. They just think one day they're going to wake up and go, you know what? I want to expand into Utah. Well, probably not going to work unless you've planned it ahead of time. And so I look at that, I look at the business plans, I ask a bunch of questions, and then I craft a strategy around that will essentially be about one step ahead of the business plan. So, like, if they're, like that example of planning to expand into Utah, will their infrastructure handle it? If not, what are the weaknesses that we need to shore up? And let's make sure that those things are shored up before the move into Utah. Too many people do it at the same time, and then they're dealing with not only the operational issues, but then the technical issues as well that come with that. And it's a really bad strategy. So that's really the key, is just understand what the business wants and what their plans for the future are. And unfortunately, like, any software developer out there will tell you, you build software for people and they tell you, oh no, I'll never need to do that. And 9 out of 10 times, a couple months after the software is released, they're calling you and they need to do that thing that they thought they were never going to be able to do. So it's also making your plans flexible enough to fit something like that in, because it's kind of like, if you look at a house and there's like a pillar in the middle of the floor, moving it could be a giant pain. But if you planned for it while they were drawing up the blueprints for the house, well, you can put the pillar anywhere you want, and they'll plan for that. So I mean, that's the key, is just knowing what the heck's this business going to do.
Got it. Understood. And then, in your view, what are some of the key qualities that make a strong tech leader in today's fast paced environment?
Well, I'm a big proponent of decentralized management. So that means hiring the right people and putting them in the position, giving them a clear job description, and then stepping back and letting them do their job, not micromanaging them, not being the one that they have to get approval for everything that they do. I mean, like, if you have somebody who is responsible for replacing the desktops in your business, and you give them a budget of $100,000 to do that, as long as they don't go over $100,000, why do you care which brand they buy, which computer they buy? If it does the job and it's under the budget, let them do their job. I feel like as the leader, you're there to guide, not direct, is a good way to put it. So I would never tell somebody, do it this way. I would just say, we need to have this done by, December 1st. And how are you planning to get that done? And then we would talk through their plan and move on. That's the key. You can't, in today's world, the leader has to lead. The leader can't just jump in alongside and like do all of the work. At the same time, I've gotten grief for this from CEOs before. I think that the CTO needs to keep their fingers in the pulse of what's going on. So if you have a help desk, maybe sit at the help desk one day a week and find out what's going on in your company, what problems are out there. You find out things you never knew were going on, because your staff, it's not that your staff's hiding it from you. They just don't think it's important enough for you to know about. And when you hear about it, you'll ask people, how often is this happening? Oh, it's all the time. Well, we better solve that for you. And so it's a good way to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on with your business too.
Got it. Understood. And with that as well, I guess a lot of times that with that business that you're talking about, possibly they were doing it before. Is that kind of what you're saying about like micromanaging? That's something that you do not want to do.
Yes. Yeah. You never want to do that, because we all hate that. And you kind of wonder, like, I had a boss that was a micromanager. He knew nothing about technology. And then I'd say to myself, well, if you don't know anything about technology, why are you over my shoulder telling me what to do? Nothing that you're saying makes any sense. And you hired me because I'm an expert at this. So why not let the expert be the expert? It'd be like if you went to the doctor and the doctor said, here, this is the medication that's going to fix this. And you go, no, it's not. I just need Tylenol. You don't tell the doctor what to do. So you probably shouldn't tell every single employee you have what to do either.
Got it. Now that does make sense. And so, what are some of the common technology pitfalls companies face as they scale, and how do you help them avoid these?
Probably the biggest one that I've seen is not having the the data pipes, so the internet connectivity to do everything that they want to do at a distance. And really, all you can do with that is analyze what the needs are, optimize the software that's causing the problems. Maybe it needs a database optimization, but just do an audit of the business's technology, see where the gaps are, and fix those things. Because with the current state of internet, you can get super fast internet anywhere you are. Now with Starlink coming out, you can get in the most rural areas, you can get super high speed internet. So that's no longer an excuse for businesses not to grow, but really it's a lot of it is just lack of knowledge. They don't know what they need in order to connect 5 offices back to a home office data center. They don't know what type of infrastructure they're going to need, what servers will they need in order to handle a certain number of employees, say, logging in, for instance. So it's just, again, it's a top-down approach. You look at everything and use your expertise to take the next step.
Got it. And, for these companies that possibly, they don't know where to go when it comes to their data, like, do you have any recommendations or anything like that to help these companies so they don't have that pitfall?
These days, if you can, find a cloud solution like AWS or Azure, because in addition to being a cloud solution, they've built tools to make it more efficient to access that data. So you're not responsible for the optimization, they are. And anytime you can take something off of your plate and focus on something else, it's, in my opinion, that's a win. So yeah, I would say look at cloud solutions that are available out there, see what works for your company, and then go with it.
Got it. That makes sense. And then why, we did talk about a little bit, Mike, about NetSuite. Why do you consider NetSuite as an essential platform for growth? And what situations does it work best?
Well, as I mentioned, I think, in my opinion, it works best for manufacturing and distribution companies and e-commerce companies. It would probably also be really good for, say, like a CPA firm that has multiple customers that they're handling taxes for, but mainly because it has objects like customer object, all the accounting tools. It has a warehouse management system. So you could literally like set up a warehouse inside of NetSuite with bins and tell it, I've got this product in bin 5, this product in bin 10. And then when you're going to pick the orders, right where to find this stuff. It tells you on your pick list, it's in bin 5. We need 2 of those. It even comes down to the point of, if you tell it the size of boxes that you use and you put the dimensions of your products, it'll even tell you that, oh, you're going to need this many of this box and this many of that box in order to ship this order. It's just a very efficient way. But again, it's kind of cost prohibitive to companies that are on a lower revenue. I would say if you're making less than $500,000 a year, you might want to consider other solutions, because a decent setup for NetSuite could cost you $150,000 just to get started. So too expensive.
Got it. Understood. And so with that though, it'd be a full setup if you or when you pay that 150. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Got it. Talking about NetSuite, what trends are you seeing with NetSuite adoption, and how has the role in the stack changed over the years, or tech stack changed over the years?
It's literally the strangest environment I've ever encountered with a big company. NetSuite's owned by Oracle, and they're huge. And yet they have their own, like, they call it advanced customer services. And basically what they do is they provide developers like me to help fix problems, customize NetSuite, but nobody likes their services. So they end up hiring partners like myself to come in and fix the problems for them. It's a lot cheaper, a lot more efficient. We actually listen. NetSuite kind of tends to like put their nose in the air and be like, oh no, we know better. I've actually been on calls where NetSuite tells customers that's not possible with NetSuite. And I'll say, oh, hold on a second. Click this box right here. Look at that. It does exactly what they're asking for. They try not to sell certain pieces of their product for some reason. But like, I can get a NetSuite system operational in less than 100 days from ground up, whereas they only get through phase 1 in 100 days. And it's all about what you put time into and resources into, and they just don't do that. And they eat up a lot of your time, like with meetings and whatnot, and charge you for them. So I say that, NetSuite is great if you can use an outside consultant. What was the other part of your question? I know I missed.
No, you're fine. It was pretty much just how has its role in the tech stack changed over just the changes that it's done within the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's evolving as like e-commerce evolves. It's adding new things, but really it's pretty much been the same for a decade. As far as features go, they've one of the cool things about NetSuite is it's a lot like if you use Google Chrome, you can add extensions to it. Well, it's the same thing with NetSuite. You can add add-ons that do other things that NetSuite itself can't do. So that's also the modular approach is a huge plus, and that's something that's really exploded in like the last 5 years. There's just companies everywhere building add-ons for NetSuite.
Got it. And I know I was on a training a couple years ago when, around the time that you mentioned 5 years ago, around the time where COVID had first came, would you
Yep.
say that NetSuite kind of had that growth due to people working remote due to COVID?
Yes, because of course, being a SaaS software, you log in from anywhere. It's no different than, logging into your Gmail account. You can log in from anywhere in the world and you access the exact same desktop that you'd access if you were sitting in an office somewhere. And so, yeah, a lot of the larger companies switched over. I actually, my revenue tripled in between 2019 and 2020 on NetSuite side, because people are just like, oh my gosh, we're not ready for this. What do we do? And even just down to remote work, people were, if you remember, it's not been that long ago, but like 5-6 years ago, it was frowned on for people to work from home all the time. They might give you a day or two a week. Now it's like the norm. And I think people figured out rather quickly that remote work also helps productivity. I personally think people do a better job when they don't have to commute. Here it's funny. We here living in Vegas. I've only been here for 3 years, and you hear people complain about a 20-minute drive somewhere. But when you live like in Los Angeles, it could be 20 minutes to go 2 blocks. So
Right.
if you don't have to drive to an office, you're going to probably work 2 extra hours that day and get more work done. So I don't know. I think the world, as the world evolves, we're going to see more and more companies just be fully remote.
Yeah, well, those companies that can, which is awesome. And so, going into my next question is how can businesses best prepare for digital transformation? A hot topic that's been on this podcast is AI, and how can and automation on the rise.
What was the question? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning part of the question.
No, you're fine. So pretty much how can businesses best prepare for digital transformation, especially with AI and automation on the rise?
Have an open mind and don't jump on the latest trends. And with that, I mean, I'm kind of talking about Chat GPT. I mean, it it's AI, but it really isn't. It's just a giant database of information that you're accessing. And if you don't ask it the question correctly, it's not even as friendly as Google. It won't answer it correctly. I think the way they prepare is think about what your needs are. Look at your business. Like I actually have people, my clients do what I call a process org chart. So just think like a typical organizational chart. We have a CEO at the top and then all the little positions and who reports to whom. I have them define what the purpose of their business is. And that's the top box of the org chart. And then underneath it is every single thing you need to do in order to reach the top goal. And then you just figure out what processes are lacking in your business. And if you are having problems generating content, well, then maybe some kind of AI content writing tool would be good for you. But there's a lot you can do with artificial intelligence these days. One of the biggest that I've seen recently, I have a show called Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, and I interview people who talk about tech leadership. And I had a gentleman on who actually has a smart chat bot. So instead of something that has to be 100% programmed by the other side, it learns as customers ask questions. It learns about these questions and what the answers are. And so when you chat with it, it's scary. It feels like you're talking to a human, and it even replies with like attitude, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, you just for digital transformation, you have to put all your ducks in a row. You have to figure out where you're going with it, because you can. It's like a house remodel. If you people out there, you've remodeled your kitchen, and then it's like, well, hey, we got them here. Let's do the bathroom, and let's do this. Let's extend the house a little bit. Let's do this. Let's do that. You get caught up in the constant change. Pick out like the top 3 things that you're struggling with in your business that automation and AI could help with, and implement it. And then once that's done, play with it for a while, adjust it. Next iteration, do it in iterations, because you're going to find that things you thought you absolutely needed, once you automate parts of your business, you won't need it anymore. So, and also start with what can be automated, because then you can hire people to do the things that can't be automated, versus hiring a bunch of people, automating, and then having to let people go, which is in my opinion, a poor way to do business.
Got it. And I exactly kind of what you just said. I just read the book Traction. Have you read that book before?
No, I have not, but I have heard about it. Yes.
Got it. And so that's some of the things that they talk about, just, the importance of just having a couple things that you work on at a time, because you can get lost if you don't, which I think is awesome. So thank you for sharing that. And then where do you see the role of a virtual CTOs headed in the next decade?
I think that it's already sort of starting. Startups are going to start utilizing fractional CTOs a lot more, mainly because they sink a lot of cash into that position as it is. And then they don't have that cash to grow the startup. If they can find good advice for strategies at a much cheaper cost and not have to pay, I mean, one of the things we're not talking about too is they don't pay healthcare for me. They don't pay any extra benefits. If I take time off, I don't get paid, that sort of thing. So it saves them a ton of cash. And I think startups are going to get more and more smart about that and hire a fractional up front. I mean, it makes sense. They generally hire as much of a skeleton crew as they can anyway. Why have to make one of those positions a tech leader when you can contract with one who actually probably benefits you even more, because they're bringing in stuff they've seen from hundreds of businesses rather than just yours. So I think that's the biggest advantage. Well, I think it's the biggest area for growth for that role is going to be startups. I think more and more startups come out, the more and more they're going to need that.
Got it. And so when you say a startup, you're talking about someone who's just getting their business started?
Yeah, like, someone has a new idea and they've got a product they want to sell or whatnot, and they need to figure out how to bring it to market. If it's got anything to do with technology, that's where a CTO can really help you a great deal.
Got it. And then so I'm guessing with your services, you don't like there's no contract or anything like that since you're if you're working with, is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. Yeah, we contract on a month-to-month basis only. So, I mean, they can terminate anytime they want, but they tend what actually usually this typical life cycle is you come in, you'll work about a year with a company, and then they'll say, I think we're ready to hire an in-house CTO. Will you help us with the vetting process? And so you take the knowledge that you built up about their business and their needs, the personalities that you've worked with, and you help them pick through candidates. And maybe sometimes people even have you interview the candidates for them as like the initial round. But that's the best way to help them out of that. And it's really the goal. You don't want them to be dependent on you forever.
Got it. So the end result is them hiring possibly hiring someone out and you're assisting them with that.
Yes.
Oh, understood, which is awesome. And we're talking about startups, we've talked about different things, but what are some of the main challenges CEOs face when integrating technology into their strategy, and how do you help them overcome these?
Wanting too much at once, looking for technology that maybe they don't really need. I worked for a restaurant delivery service as a CTO, and it was around the time that Amazon was coming out with their suggestion engine. You bought this, you might be interested in these other three things. And he said, I want the same thing for us. I just sort of chuckled and I said, you know how much it cost them to do that? It cost them $2 million to build it and $1 million a year to maintain it. Are you really willing to invest that? Well, no, I'm not. How about it? Can you do it a fraction of that? No, you can't. That's how much it costs. And so you have to look at like what are your needs, and like anybody else, it's like running your household. There's must-haves and then there's nice to haves. And leave the nice to haves off. Make sure you're focusing on the must haves. And later, when you have the revenue and and your business is solid enough, bring in the nice to haves. Focus on the essentials for getting your business going and scaling. Don't hire too many people. If you're going to, I strongly suggest if you're going to use contract employee like tech employees, but you have zero technical skill, well then find yourself a virtual CTO type person who can help you navigate that. Those are really the keys, is just getting educated on what it is you need and what people need to be on the bus and in the right seat.
Got it. And so kind of what I heard from that is you're saying that you're not biased when it comes to what applications you'll consult for a company depending of where they're at or what kind of company that they are. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Got it. Awesome. And then so what advice would you give to anyone that's possibly aspiring to be a CTOs and tech strategist looking to make an impact in their industry?
Well, learn to take care of yourself first, because your team's going to depend on you and your business is going to depend on you. And if you're working too many hours and you're overworked, you're not going to be of much value to them. So learn to take care of yourself first. And then the second thing is listen to people. Always listen. Don't be that stereotypical tech person who wants to say no to everything just because they think that it's a pipe dream by their internal customer. Be willing to listen to the reasons why they want the things, and then navigate with them what things they really need and what things is just sort of a want. And keep that open mind. That's really important. We get a bad reputation in the tech field, and like we speak in jargon, and we need to avoid all of that. We need to speak more in plain English. So almost like, you're speaking to a 5-year-old so that they can understand it, because tech people get frustrated all the time that, oh, my CEO doesn't understand. Well, are you explaining it to him in a way he can get it? Because if you're not, you have to. And I think those are the key things. Just listen, be a leader by taking care of yourself, and speak more clearly, communicate better.
Got it. And I know earlier you talked about how, you'll when it comes to CTOs, a lot of them work like 101 hours. So for them to take care of themselves, is there a tip that you recommend to help them to do so?
Yeah, the number one thing that I did, and it worked like a charm, was set boundaries and stick to them. And I'm talking about hard boundaries. Like for me, one of the big ones was we 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 got this building and they put all the executives on like the outer rim of the building, so we would all have windows. Yay! But then we also had this glass as like our front wall. And so people could see if you were just like working on your computer or what, or if you were in a meeting or on a call. Well, if you weren't on a call or in a meeting, they'd stop in. Hey, you got 5 minutes? 5 minutes never takes 5 minutes. It's like 25, 30. And it used to just annoy me. So I asked somebody who was a management consultant, what do I do? He said, get a timer and just tell them, you want 5 minutes? Great. We can do 5 minutes right now. But if the timer goes off, we have to schedule an appointment. And that's what I would do. Schedule the appointment. And it works because that's a boundary that you have. And soon people start to realize, yeah, he's right. It's not going to take 5 minutes. And they just set the appointment rather than, have that meeting rather than come and waste 5 minutes of your time, which then you'll repeat in the meeting, by the way. So you're better off having the boundaries, being strict with them. And it also gets you out of the office. Like I used to have a rule that on Fridays, I was out of the office at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody bothered me. It took a while, but once they got it, they leave me alone on Fridays. And it was important to me because that was sort of like the kickoff to the weekend and I could spend time with my family. But don't be ashamed of setting boundaries that are important to you because ultimately there's really no such thing as work-life balance. It's just life balance. How are you spending your lifetime? Some of it's going to be working, some of it's going to be playing. The percentage you spend in each is up to you. And set that boundary and then don't let it, and mainly stick to it. Don't let anyone step over the boundary.
Got it. And I actually agree with you. I have two young children, so that's something that I've had to learn, having that balance.
Sure.
Balancing work and then also balancing my children is something that I've had to learn. And so, how can someone transition into a role like a virtual CTO? And what skills are the most valuable?
Cut your teeth on in the corporate world first. Learn what technology leadership is all about. Once you've got that down and you know your stuff inside and out, then you become valuable to external clients and more people will hire you for that work. It's no easier than any other, entrepreneurial endeavor that you're going to have. You're still going to have to market yourself. You're going to have to post the stupid social media stuff all the time, but eventually once you start getting clients, then it's the reviews and the word of mouth that just take it off. Just like any business, really, it's no different. But like I say, cut your teeth in the corporate world first. Learn where your weaknesses are so you can strengthen those.
Got it. That does make sense. And then, so what's one piece of advice you wish you had known when you started out as a technology strategist?
Probably that no matter how careful you are to explain things to a client, there's always going to be misunderstandings. And it's not your team member's fault who spoke to them. It's not the client's fault. It's not your fault. It's just what happens. And you have to learn to roll with the punches with that. And like, I have a developer that works for me that will say things like, why is the client asking for this to be changed? We told them that this was a possibility before and they said no. I don't know why they asked it changed now, but that's what they want and they're the client. So let's just give them what they want. So in other words, rather than get upset about it, just roll with it and go with it. They're paying you. It's not like they're asking for it for free. So, go ahead and do what they asked for. And yeah, you try to guide them ahead of time. It doesn't always work. So just roll with the punches and don't be that person who's like, oh, I can't believe they made another change. Just be happy that you have work that you're doing that you love and do it.
Got it. Oh, and that's great advice. And is there anything else you would like to share with us before we go?
Well, I mean, just in general, I mean, as a business coach, be passionate about what you do. And if you're not, find what you are passionate about because, there's a lot of people who went into technology because it was like the thing to do. And then they find out that it's not really what they like. Don't be afraid to explore what it is you like and switch careers and go for it. I mean, my own wife, she worked as as an accounting professional. And now she's running her own business doing nothing that has to do with accounting because one day she woke up and she's like, I hate this. I don't like it. And well, what do you love? She found what she loved and that's what she does. So find what you love, because I know it's cliched, but it's true. If you love something, you'll be excited to get up in the morning and do it, rather than, here we go again. It's Monday. I got to go back to work.
Got it. No, and I totally agree with you. And I've actually really enjoyed our conversation. So
Me
thank
too.
you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Mike, for, chatting with me for 42 minutes. We had a great conversation and I'm excited for our audience to hear everything that you had to say. And you have a great day.